This video is going to challenge your current approach to strength training and understanding of progressive overload. Right now, you probably think that in order to get stronger, you just need to add weight to the bar every single week. So if you bench press 225 pounds on week 1, next week you need to do 230, 235, 240 and so on. This approach is wrong and outdated. This is why you are constantly grinding really hard, heavy sets, hitting failure and not actually making any progress long term. In this video, I'm going to give you a much better way, and by the end of the video, you'll know exactly how much weight to put on the bar each week and how to structure your training blocks. This approach allowed me to go from being a lifetime intermediate like yourself to now where I can squat almost 250 kilos, bench 160 kilos, and deadlift 300 kilos, all without doing any sets to failure, forcing weight on the bar, or getting really fat and doing something like go mad. If you want me to just structure this approach for you, I will write you a personalized training program, tell you how much weight to put on the bar each week. Top link in the description, you can hire me as your personal strength coach, or second link if you just want to go run my strength training programs. So let's get straight into it. A very common misunderstanding from intermediate lifters and even a lot of advanced guys is that to get stronger, you need to just add more weight to the bar every single week. You do your 5x5 with 225 pounds on the bench press, and to get stronger, you must beat the logbook. You must add more weight. You got to add 5 pounds. You got to do more reps. You got to train harder. You just need to basically do more and more and more. And this is a really common misunderstanding of progressive overload. Progressive overload does not mean just force more training stress every single session. A lot of people get this backwards. You do not get stronger by adding weight to the bar. You get stronger, then you're able to add weight to the bar. Putting weight on the bar is a result of the adaptations. It's not a prerequisite for you to make more progress. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Now, the best way for me to kind of explain this to you is that to get stronger long term, we don't just need to keep doing more and more and more and more, because we can't. The rate of adaptation slows down. Otherwise, we'd all be squatting, benching and deadlifting 1,000 kilos. You know this intuitively because you can't put weight on the bar every single week. The longer you train, the more this time period kind of expands. And for someone like myself who's been training for a long time, I now plan my PRs over multiple training blocks. Like if I'm going for a squat, bench or deadlift PR, I'm planning that over probably 3 to 6 training blocks of 5 weeks length. So 15 to 30 weeks of training before I can demonstrate a PR. I'm not trying to force weight on the bar every single week. So if we know that you're not capable of hitting a PR every single week, why would you structure your training in a way that has you try and force weight on the bar every single week and fail reps? It just doesn't work, and you've seen that in your own training. It's why you're constantly beat up, tired, and not making any progress. So let me try and kind of illustrate with an example. So in order to get stronger long term, it's very, very simple. We apply a stress. The stress in this case is lifting weights. We recover from that stress over some time frame. Adaptations occur, like neuromuscular adaptations, bigger muscles, technique coordination, things like that. And then we're able to lift more weight. That's the kind of simplified version of the process. Now, in order for this process to happen, we need to basically experience an appropriate amount of stress from our training. So just view your training as stress, okay? If there is too little stress, you will not make progress. There's not enough stimulus. So if you walked in the gym and you just did 1 set of bench press per week, probably not going to make progress for very long, right? Because it's too little stress. If you experience too much stress from your training program, so let's say you go in and you do 40 sets of bench press in a session, you're also not going to make progress because you can't recover from that stress. We want to fall somewhere in the middle. There is an appropriate dose of training stress, okay? There is a sweet spot for volume, intensity, frequency. We all know this, right? If you want to make progress long term, the stress of your training program needs to fall here right in the middle in this appropriate training stress ballpark, okay? Too little stress, you won't make progress. Too much stress, you won't make progress. We have to be here in the middle. Now, a lot of you, because you're going in and you're trying to just go in with this mindset of I have to beat the logbook, I have to lift more, I have to force more weight on the bar, you're always at this end of the spectrum. You're always on the excessively high training stress and you can't make progress. Then a lot of guys will say, oh, you just need to rest more. That doesn't work either, because you can't out-rest bad training. Like, what you're going to do when progress stalls again? Rest even more? Rest even more? Like, you'd end up training once every 2 weeks. You need to just find an appropriate dose of training stress And then you need to be exposed to that appropriate dose of training stress for a really long time to get strong. It's really that simple. So I would try and reframe progressive overload as repeated exposure to an appropriate stress. That might mean that you lift the same weight for multiple weeks in a row, or sometimes even less weight, because if you're not performing well, you're not recovering well because of high life stress or something like that, training stress might need to come down, and that will still be an appropriate level of stress. So if you're still a little bit confused and you want me to kind of organize this for you, again, top link in the description. You can hire me as your personal strength coach. I'll do it for you. So how do you actually go about determining like how to figure out this appropriate dose of training stress, how much weight to add to the bar each week? Because I've recommended that you do not just force weight on the bar blindly each week, because that's going to result in this excess training stress that you can't recover from. And I'll give you a practical example. So for most of you guys, let's say on week 1 you're doing your 5x5 with 225 pounds on the bench press. Straight away, that's probably representing too much stress because the sets are really hard, they're really grindy, they're really close to failure. Therefore, when you come back in to do it next week, because it was too much stress, you haven't recovered, you haven't adapted, you've actually maladapted, you've gone backwards. And therefore on week 2, when you try 230 pounds, you get to set 2 or 3 and already you're failing reps because you didn't recover from this first exposure. Then the next week you try and put more weight again because you think you have to make progress. You fail reps even earlier, maybe on set 1 or set 2. You got the whole process backwards. If you would have started lighter on week 1 with less stress, you would have actually recovered and adapted in time for week 2, so you can lift more weight. Then week 3, you recovered, adapted, so you were able to lift more weight. Can you see how by lining the stress up appropriately, you're able to lift more weight week after week, rather than going all out, killing yourself in the gym on week 1, can't recover, so it feels heavier, 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 and then you start failing reps every single week, okay? So let me give you a better way. So if you've watched any of my videos before, you know that I recommend a top set back off approach. And what I mean by that is, instead of this common intermediate approach where you go in the gym and you basically just do some straight sets, like 3 sets of 5, 5 sets of 5, something like that, really hard sets, right? They're close to failure, they're slow, they're grindy. The goal is just to lift as much weight as possible every set and add weight to the bar every week. Instead of that, I recommend that you take those 5 hard sets and you break them up. So you have 1 hard set and then you have multiple easier back off sets. So the top set is your exposure to heavy weights, it's your skill practice, it's the highly specific stuff. Those back down sets, the lighter sets, are the stimulus or the stress that drives those adaptations. So you can think of this volume work as this appropriate stress to drive up the top set, okay? So for the top set, I recommend that on your squat, your bench press, and your deadlift, you frequently do a top set of 1 to 3 reps at 80% of your 1 rep max and above. So for example, that might look like a single RPE 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9 throughout a training block. Then I recommend that you do your volume work for sets of 3 to 6 reps, about 3 to 6 sets as well, usually 3 to 5 sets in the 60 to 75% range. Now these sets are going to be quite easy, you're going to have multiple reps left in reserve, but like I said, the top set is our exposure to high stress training. We just want a little bit of it. Then we do the bulk of it in this moderate, this appropriate stress range, because we can actually recover from it, adapt and get stronger. If we do all of our training hard and heavy, the training stress is excessive, we don't recover, and we can't put weight on the bar. So how do we actually determine how much weight to put on the bar each week on these sets? So on the top set, this heavier set, I would recommend that you aim to add about 5 to 15 kilos per week. 15 kilos is going to be at the top end for the genetically gifted guys. 5 kilos is going to be for the more kind of average guys. Now, don't misunderstand and think that I'm telling you put 5 to 15 kilos on your 1 rep max per week. That's not the case. 5 to 15 kilos on this top set. This top set is going to be sub-maximal. You're going to start the training block with it quite easy, so it might be a triple at RPE 5, for example. Then we do a triple at 6, 7, 8, and 9, just as an example. And we're going to add weight to that every single week. Now, yes, we are starting light and we are facilitating building momentum because, like I said, if you start really heavy, we could start on week 1 with the triple at RPE 9, but it's too much stress. So then week 2, we don't recover, adapt, and we can't put weight on the bar. We want to start lighter so that the training stress scales throughout a training block, because we pay for this training stress with some degree of fatigue. If we just do hard training every single week, fatigue is skyrocketing and masking your ability to actually get stronger. So if we set things up like this, where week 1 is a bit lighter and it gets heavier as we go through a training block, we can manage fatigue, because fatigue is going to rise like this, and then we move into a new block, fatigue comes down, it rises again, and this periodized approach allows us to actually get stronger long term. So I would aim for 5 to 15 kilos per week. For myself personally, through loads of trial and error, I have figured out that on the squat and the deadlift, I'm able to, so my training blocks are 5 weeks, just to kind of illustrate. On the squat and the deadlift, I'm able to add 10 kilos for the first 3 weeks. So I go 10 kilos, 10 kilos, 10 kilos. Then for the final 2 weeks, I'll go 15 kilos, 15 kilos. For the bench press, I usually go 5, 5, 5, and then 7.5, 7.5, or something like that. You're going to need to kind of figure out based on your starting point. So keep the starting point predictable, keep it kind of consistent from block to block. So RPE 5 for block 1, block 2, and so on. And then you can kind of figure out how much weight you're able to add to the bar each week without overshooting your RPE targets. So once you figure this out, the important part and the thing I want you to take from this video is the back offsets, the volume work, because this is where a lot of you guys mess up. This is where currently you're just trying to blindly force weight on the bar every single week and it does not work. So with the back offsets, so these sets of 3 to 6 reps in the 60 to 75% range, I want you to view these as stress. We do not care what weight is on the bar, okay? It does not matter, it's unimportant. I just want you to view them as stress. These sets are the stress that is going to drive up the top sets. Doesn't matter what weight is on the bar, it just matters, is it an appropriate dose of training stress? You might be thinking, why are these sets so easy? Why don't we just do them at 80, 85%? And because, like I said, yes, it's heavier, you get to lift heavier weight, maybe there's more stimulus, there's a ton more fatigue, so you fall into this excessive stress category, you can't recover, and then you can't put more weight on the bar. If we do them at a more moderate dose of stress, you can actually recover, adapt, and get stronger. Now, I would highly recommend that you don't just blindly add weight to these each week. Let's say your back offsets, let's say you're doing 65%, and for you that happens to be 200 pounds for 5 sets of 5, right? If you do this on week 1 and week 2 and the top set weight goes up, by definition, we know these back offsets are an appropriate dose of stress. The program's working. We don't need to change anything. Don't add weight to the back offsets just because progressive overload, like, it doesn't make any sense. Now, do that 200 pounds, that 65%, whatever it happens to be, and just keep doing it week to week. Don't change it. Don't add any weight to the bar. Just leave it exactly as it is. Then when the top set stops going up in weight, you're not able to actually recover, adapt, and get stronger, then you can start adjusting them. So then you can go 205, 210. To give you a practical example, my last training block on the squat, one of my best training blocks, when I squatted almost 250 kilos, on the back offsets, my coach just manually prescribed me a weight because I asked him to do that. It's more predictable. And I did 140 kilos on week 1. Then I did 142.5. Then I told him, okay, I'm starting to feel a little bit fatigued. So we just held the weight at 145 kilos for the next 3 weeks. And then I jumped to 150 on the final week. Because I was recovering, adapting, getting stronger with 145 kilos on the bar. There's no reason to just blindly add more. If I blindly add more just because of progressive overload, I'm actually exceeding my ability to recover. I don't need to put more weight on the bar. Again, it's just stress. You just need to find an appropriate dose of stress. And if it so happens that your back offsets are delivering that dose of stress, don't add more stress just because. So hopefully this makes sense. So the top sets, try and add weight to that every single week because that's our benchmark. It's our performance set if you want to view it as that. The back offsets, find an appropriate dose of stress in that range I gave you, 60 to 75%. Once you find it, don't change it. Just lift the same weight until you figure out that you need to add more stress or remove stress, okay? It's that simple. So the important point is here, don't just blindly add weight to the bar every week because I've just explained to you, we know that you don't need to put more weight on the bar to get stronger. You get stronger, then you're able to add more weight to the bar, okay? Now, we need a repeated exposure to an appropriate dose of stress long term. That's how you get really, really strong long term. You find an appropriate dose of stress and you just expose yourself to it over and over and over and over for a really long time until the adaptations happen and you get stronger. If your top set is going up, like I said, the back offsets are by definition appropriate dose of stress, so don't just blindly add weight to them. Now, to kind of tell you how to implement this into your program briefly, let's say that in block 1, you do your top set. So we're doing triples. We do a triple RP 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's say that you chose to do your back off sets at 60% of the estimated 1 rep max for the day. Let's say for you that's 185 pounds. So week 1, you do a 5x5 with 185 pounds. Week 2, 185 pounds, 185 pounds, top set still going up, 185 pounds, top set still going up. The whole block, you just lifted 185 pounds for 5 sets of 5. And the top set went up every single week. You didn't need to change it. Now you go into block 2 and you're doing doubles. So you do 2 at RP 5, RP 6, 7, 8, 9 for the top sets. Again, you're doing 185 pounds for a 5x5 on the back offs. But when you get to week 2 or 3, that top set starts to feel a little bit heavy. You feel really fresh, you feel well recovered, but top set's not really going up. The back offs aren't feeling stressful enough anymore. So you bump them up to 190 pounds, 195 pounds, and you repeat that process. You just need to continually adjust the stress of the back off sets instead of just blindly adding weight to the bar. I really hope that makes sense and you can apply that to your training. So to close out this video, let me give you a pro tip. And if you take anything from this video, I want you to understand that the actual weight on the bar for your back off sets for strength does not matter at all. It does not matter if there's 225 pounds on the bar or 315 pounds on the bar. It is just stress. Your body isn't viewing the actual weight. Your body has no understanding of the kilos or the pounds on the bar. It just understands how much stress am I experiencing from these sets. Is the stress too little? Then it won't make adaptations because it's not enough stimulus. Is the stress excessive? You will maladapt, you will get weaker. Or is the stress appropriate? If it's appropriate, expose yourself to it for a really long time, recover, adapt, and that's how you'll get stronger long term, okay? Aim to add weight to your top set every single week. We're gonna do that one hard top set that we try and add weight to every single week. The back off sets, just find a dose of stress that works. Once you find it, keep running it. Once it stops working, add a little bit of weight or take a bit of weight off the bar if you find it's too stressful, okay? You do not need to force weight on the bar every single week to get stronger. I really hope you take that from this video. I really hope that this helps to improve your strength training. If you want some examples, again, second link in the description, you can see my strength training programs, and hopefully this explains to you how to actually use and implement these ideas. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like a free training program to run, I've got an intermediate one here that you can literally just go and steal. Any questions and comments, post them in the comment section down below and I'll get back to you. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video.